Good morning, everybody, and welcome to another fantastic edition of the worst sports podcast out there. This is Raven Slayer's Hour, and we got a fun-filled, packed episode for y'all. As y'all know, we are coming down to the nitty gritty when it comes to the NBA season. Only a couple games left, so it's time to have some fun and talk about playoffs. Now, my dad and I have talked back and forth to and fro about what the NBA playoffs are going to look like. So we're going to be talking about playoff picture currently, playing teams, who we see dropping out of who we see dropping throughout the entirety of the play-in bracket, and who we predict to see going to the finals, winning playoff games, and becoming one of the top tier teams to want it making it to the finals. So without further ado, let me just make sure. All right, I have you unmuted. For some reason, it is not pulling up Discord. Give me one brief moment. Why is this not wanting to work?
Why'd you break it?
I've already broken it, of course. There we go. Now it's fixed. All right, there we go. So, like I was kind of telling the fans, ultimately what's going on, we're talking about, of course, NBA playoffs, the NBA playoffs. A couple more games, couple of exciting things to come with this the NBA off season, but definitely the number one enjoyable focus definitely is that NBA playoff picture. So I know you and I have talked back and forth. A lot happened last night too with the seedings. The Pistons shocked me surprisingly. Won that game last night. Got themselves solidified in the playoffs. Now at number 4 currently.
I'm sorry, at what?
They're at number 4.
Hold everything.
Yeah, I saw that this morning. I'm like, oh my goodness, that changes everything now.
Just a second.
Yeah, looking at the standing. Oh wait, no, never mind. They just updated once again. Pistons are back to 5.
Yeah, Pistons are 5, Milwaukee is 6 currently. So where do you want to start? Should we start in the East where things are a little more ironed out already?
Hold on, you're breaking up super bad.
Well, that's not good. How about now?
It's a little bit better. So definitely agree with you. We should definitely start over in the East where things are a little bit more solidified. Now you're frozen.
You're breaking up.
What, I'm breaking up?
Yep.
Oh, goodness. Everything's working fine. I don't know what's happening.
Yeah. I don't know. I've got good ping on my end. So
I do too. So
anyway,
anyway,
yeah, as you mentioned, if we're starting in the East, the great thing about the East is so much is pretty much set in stone. Talking about the top 4 seeds right now, you've got Cleveland, who's 5 games up. They're going to be the number 1 seed in the East, and it's really not even going to be close. Boston's number 2. They're going to be the number 2 seed in the East. New York currently at number 3. Pacers at number 4. Nothing much should change in those top 4 seeds. Those 4 teams should be on lockdown in that order. So that brings us to number 5 and number 6. Currently, Detroit half a game up on Milwaukee. Currently 43 wins for Detroit, 42 for the Bucks. Last night, Raven and I sat down. We talked through a little bit what we expect to see the rest of the way out. Now, Raven, you said you were shocked that Detroit won that game. That was a game that I had given Detroit as a win. That wasn't much of a shock to me. More of a shock to me would have been if they somehow lost that game. Down the stretch, I had Milwaukee going 4-2, had the Pistons going 3-3. So when it all shakes out and plays out, I've got Milwaukee as my 5 seed, Detroit as my 6. How about you?
No, I more than anything when I was sitting looking over everything with Detroit, definitely was similar, kind of what you were saying there. Detroit being right around that 5-6. I mean, with the regular season, looking at the rest, I mean, I very well could see the Pistons and the Bucks staying right where they are. I might be shocked by it too. Pistons might move up to that 4 seed. Pacers fall into the 5. That's kind of where I have things falling right now. But definitely that top 4: Cavs, Celtics, Knicks, and except for the Pacers, Cavs, Celtics, Knicks. I definitely see them staying where they are currently.
So with the Pistons being 3 games back, the Pacers with only 5 to play, and the Bucks being 3.5 back, I just don't see either one of those two overtaking Pacers. And the other 4 teams, and we'll talk about the play on the East here in just a moment. The other 4 teams are not going to catch either one of them for the 5 or the 6. That's where I said on the East side, a little more concrete, a little more hammered out already beyond just seeding amongst the 5 and 6 for me, and then the 7 through 10. So at least the top 6, I think, are pretty well set, and that brings us to the Eastern Conference play-in. Why don't you start with that?
So Eastern Conference play-in, kind of how I had the current teams that are in the Western Conference play-in picture right now. The Clippers, or no, sorry, I'm looking at the West. My apologies. Over on the East, it's the Magic, Hawks, Heat, and Bulls. The Bulls and Miami actually flipped. The Bulls are currently number 9, Miami number 10, with Atlanta coming in at that 8 and Orlando in at 7. Me personally, there's some when it comes to every single one of these teams, each and every one of them have a lot of issues when it comes to their players themselves, and there's some guys that are being solely missed on these teams that are gonna not necessarily that are gonna ultimately help have them kind of stay where they currently are. The Magic, they currently lost, Jalen Suggs for the season, averaging about 16 points per game. Them not having Jalen Suggs in that lineup, definitely has been hurting them a lot. So that's kind of why I have that knock on on Orlando right now. I definitely see them staying. Sorry, I have them currently here. Staying right around. Sorry. So I have them currently staying right around that 7 seed, possibly falling to the 8. But I mean, again, that's majorly seeding between them and Atlanta. I mean, Atlanta definitely isn't going to catch to make the 6. I would be shocked if Orlando turns it around and makes it to the 6, but. Definitely have the Magic staying right around 7. With Atlanta, kind of things I was looking at with them, not having Clint Capella, him being out until the 15th, and then with Jalen Johnson being out for the season. Jalen Johnson's the biggest impact for that team, not playing as well as they currently are. Jalen Johnson not having his roughly 18 points, almost 19 points a game, is definitely having a huge impact for them too. That's why they currently sit at that 8. If they keep losing games, we very well could be having an argument of Chicago going up to that 8, and Atlanta falling to the 9. With Miami, again, similar thing, very questionable. With a lot of injuries themselves, with both Andrew Wiggins and Nikola Jokic or Jovic both being out. Wiggins out until it was saying out until today. It very well could come down to a game time decision for him. But hopefully they are able to go and get him in that starting lineup because it's 18 points that they're missing on that lineup definitely have been hindering them themselves as well. And even Nikola Jovic, with him being his rookie year, 10 and almost 11 points a game, and being that center stone on that offense, definitely has been a huge hit for them. The Bulls, I mean, they really don't have notable injuries. I mean, the only real one I saw was Lonzo Ball, but I mean, he's day to day with a wrist injury. He could come back into that lineup. Unfortunately, Lonzo wasn't really having that huge of an impact, less than 8 points a game. So I still see the Bulls making even further runs, getting up to that eight seed, and changing things around for their season.
So it was nice to hear you touch a little bit on the injury problems that these four teams have got. None of these teams have mathematically a chance outside of Atlanta of catching Detroit for the 6th seed. So these guys are all going to be your 7 through 10. Detroit would have to lose out, which they're not going to do. Atlanta would have to win out, which they're not going to do.
Detroit's are 5,
so
Milwaukee's are 6, by the way.
Or I'm sorry, Milwaukee. Same thing there. Milwaukee would have to lose out, which they're not going to do. So just looking at the picture right now, Orlando currently biggest problem they have is they only have 4 games remaining this season, which limits their ability to win a lot of games to position themselves any better. I actually have Orlando going 1-3, winning this next game coming up, and then losing out the remainder of the way. I've got them falling right now to the 8 or possibly the 9, depending on tiebreakers with Miami. Atlanta, even with the injuries that they've got, they have a fairly favorable schedule the rest of the way. Now, I think they lose today to New York. New York's a scary team with a lot of talent and playoff tested talent as well. Look for New York to knock off Atlanta today. Utah is the next game. That would be tomorrow. It is at home. It is a back-to-back, but Utah is not a good team. They're not even close. So I've got them winning against Utah. I've got Atlanta beating Orlando. I've got them beating Brooklyn. I've got them losing to Philadelphia and then winning the closeout game of the year against Orlando again. I've got Atlanta jumping up to my 7th seed with 40 overall wins at the end. So Miami, I've got going 4-2 down the stretch as well. That puts Miami and Orlando with 39 wins each. That'll come down to the tiebreakers to determine the 8 or 9 seed. And Chicago, I have them at 4-2 down the stretch as well, putting them 1 game back of both of those teams with 38 overall wins. They will be your 10.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong with the tiebreakers. I mean, they normally do come down to like conference the conference win-loss record. Right now, with Orlando, 28-20, 24-23 for Chicago. So, yeah, I mean, coming down to the tiebreaker, very well could be that we see Chicago as at 8, Atlanta Orlando as at 9. But yeah, a lot of factors on the East. Far too much to within the play-in bracket. Far too many scenarios could come down. But it definitely definitely is a test to see for them, especially
so
with
the only time that it doesn't come down to head-to-head is if you've got 3 or more teams tied with the same record. So in this case, head-to-head will ultimately be the deciding factor. So when we talk about Orlando and Miami, who I have as my 8 and 9, if we go take a look at their head-to-head, Give me 1 second. So beat Miami the first game of the season. And then scrolling, trying to find the teams against them. And then lost 125, 119 in overtime back in January. And lost to them as well in December. So with Orlando losing to Miami 2 out of 3, Miami then would get the 8 seed. Orlando would fall to 9 if the two are tied.
Okay, so it's more just down to like the games that they played against each other, kind of thing.
That's correct, as long as it's just the two of them with the same record.
Gotcha. Okay, so that definitely boils down the East. Now the fun part, the West. Far too wide open for the West right now, except for that number 1 and number 2 seed. OKC and Houston currently the 1 and 2. OKC with the 64 win record, ain't nobody gonna touch them. 51 wins currently for Houston. They're
52 after last night when they knocked off OKC.
That's right. That honestly is gonna be a fun matchup to see between them two in the playoffs. But if they get to play each other.
Yeah.
But 1 and 2 solidified. Lakers at 3, Denver at 4, Golden State at 5, Minnesota currently at 6.
Yep.
So here's the fun things that boil down with LA at the 3 and Denver at the 4. I honestly see when it boils down to the number 3 and 4, Denver very well could hopscotch LA and take that number 3, LA falling to number 4 or 5. So a lot can happen between that 3 and 4. The fun thing to think about too is at 5 and 6. I mean, Minnesota's only one game back from Golden State. Just one game back. So, I mean, it's fun to see what's going to happen with them down the stretch. What are your takes?
Well, let's start at the top. Oklahoma City is actually my pick to win it all this year. I think they've got one of the most complete rosters I've seen in a long time. On top of that, SGA is just a machine. And with them now getting Chet Holmgren back, they're firing on all cylinders, 9-1 over their last 10. They did lose last night to the Houston Rockets, a game that I think was probably more important for Houston than it was for Oklahoma City. Houston has to be able to believe they can somehow compete with Oklahoma City if the playoffs are going to mean anything. Houston, though, the big win last night, that was the only game I missed yesterday in my predictions was Houston beating Oklahoma City.
Dad, could you please be quiet?
No, I cannot. Yeah, she's such a helper. Houston, I've got Ixity over there, or not at all. So Houston, I've got finishing with 52 wins. They're going to hang on to that 2 seed. They will be the number 2. And then it gets fun. We went through last night and we went through the schedule for every team, picked every win, every loss to try and figure out where it all was going to land. And for me, I ended up with Denver and Golden State tied at 50 wins apiece for the 3 and the 4 seed. Now, let's go talk tiebreakers for just a moment, because it's the one thing that I failed to pull out of the hat last night. I wish I had, but we didn't. So head-to-head, Denver and Golden State. I'm searching. Let's see. Denver beat Golden State December 3rd. Denver. She clearly needs attention. Denver beat Golden State March 17th. And Denver lost to Golden State on April 4th. So Denver holds that tiebreaker. Denver would be the number 3 if the two teams finish tied, which I expect. And Golden State then would be my number 4. Golden State, Oklahoma City in round 2, if that's how this all plays out, could be the most interesting matchup in the playoffs. So keep an eye open for that.
Definitely. Now, the fun thing to think about too, I mean, currently you got 3 teams tied right now for the 6, the 7, and the 8, with Minnesota, the Clippers, and Memphis currently being tied, all at 45 wins, 32 losses. Apparently she needs apparently she wanted him to take a break. But yeah, Minnesota, LA, the Clippers, and Memphis. No, you're fine. Take your time. I'll just kind of keep talking while he's over taking care of her. So Minnesota, the 6, currently Clippers number 7, Memphis number 8. Currently all 3 at 45 wins, 32 losses. We were talking last night again, going over records and everything like that. Whole 9 yards. I definitely had Minnesota finishing off at that number 6 seed. With a last 5 games over the season, taking down the 76ers, taking down the Nets, and taking down the Jazz. So going 3-2 over the last 5 games.
So I think we agreed in terms. I think we agreed in terms of remaining wins. Both the Lakers and Minnesota ending up at 49 overall. So if that's the case, here we go again. Let's talk tiebreakers. Lakers beat Minnesota the first game of the year. Lakers lost to Minnesota December 2nd.
We're talking about the Clippers, by the way.
Oh, I'm sorry. Clippers, I'm not into them. They're trying. No. Lakers lost to Minnesota December 13th.
This man just said Lakers again. Jesus Christ.
I'm still talking about the Lakers. We'll get to that other team in a minute. Lakers beat Minnesota. And I've got them splitting 2-2 unless I'm missing one of their games. So do me a favor, Raven, take a quick moment. Go double check my math here. Make sure that Lakers and Minnesota are tied at 2 apiece.
Let's see. Let's see. When did they last play each other? Lakers
2-2.
won on the 27th of February. Oh, goodness gracious. It'd be so much easier if each team just played each other like twice a month. Minnesota wound up winning December 2nd. And Minnesota wound up beating them October 4th, with the Lakers taking so 2-2 as far as their records between each other.
Going to tiebreakers, with the head-to-head being the same. Neither of them are division leaders. It's going to come down to conference win-loss. And the Lakers in conference are worse than Minnesota in conference. I think, let me double check. 31. Nope, Lakers are better. Lakers are better in conference. That would make your Lakers the 5 seed, the Timberwolves the 6 seed. And then we can start talking about the Clippers right after we talk about the team they're going to finish behind, the Memphis Grizzlies. I've got the Grizzlies finishing with 48 wins. That moves them to number 7. The Clippers falling to number 8 with 47 wins overall. For me, there's your top 8. The lot of possibility of things jockeying around depending on upsets the rest of the way down the stretch. But that's the playoff picture I see for those top eight seeds. So Memphis and the Clippers remain 7 and 8, just flip flopping, and they're stuck in the play-in tournament.
Now, the fun thing to think about, too, that number 9 and 10, the number 10 is still up for grabs at the current moment. As we know, Phoenix is 2 games behind currently to Sacramento. Portland's behind by 3 games to Sacramento, and San Antonio currently is 4 games behind, or 5 games behind. Sacramento,
San Antonio.
San Antonio's getting eliminated.
San Antonio's pretty much out of the mix. So let's talk the 9 seed really quick. Dallas Mavericks getting Anthony Davis back. He had a big play at the end last night to secure a victory for them. Dallas should be the 9 seed. I don't see any of the remaining teams catching them. That leaves us with the 10 seed.
Sacktown, good old
Now,
Sacramento.
As of right now, it is Sacramento. They pulled off a win last night, one that I expected. The Suns losing last night to Boston, again, one that was expected. Here's what I see. Sacramento has 4 more games in a row that I see them losing before a final game matchup against the Phoenix Suns. The Phoenix Suns are going to win 1, and that'll be most likely against San Antonio, to set up a win and you're in situation for the final game of the season with Sacramento. The reason this becomes a win and you're in, even though they would still be 1 game behind Sacramento, is these 2 teams split the season series so far 1-1. That final game of the season becomes the tiebreaker for the tiebreaker. The winner of that game would have a better head-to-head record against the other. That would put Phoenix in, if they can win, against Sacramento. Now, what will happen? I think one other possibility that I hadn't considered is if Oklahoma City, by the second to last game, has everything secured, everything locked down, or third to last game, has everything locked down. If they happen to sit their starters against the Phoenix Suns, that's 1 more win the Suns could sneak in and grab to even it up, but it still then would come down to the last game of the year. Look for Kevin Durant to be back against San Antonio, because that is a must-win game for them unless Sacramento happens to sneak a couple of wins the rest of the way. In which case, we've seen Kevin Durant play his last game for the Phoenix Suns. Look for him to be gone in the offseason.
Absolutely.
I have Kevin Durant putting up 40 on the Sacramento Kings in the final game of the year to sneak their way into the playoffs as the number 10 seed, and Sacramento missing out.
That is a bold prediction there, sir.
That's
so
what
as
I'm
I was
about.
kind of researching through everything too, of course, thinking about injuries and everything, the biggest impact injuries that each team has had. Clippers, currently they lost Amir Coffey through April 9th with a knee injury. It wasn't a huge impact player, was averaging almost 10 points a game. Memphis, with them losing Brandon Clark for the season, he's only averaging about 8, so not another huge impact. One thing that I saw that really concerned me with Dallas definitely was the notable injuries. Kyrie being out for the season. He's the team's leading scorer right now. Luckily, Anthony Davis is back. My concern with him is, can he stay healthy? So can he stay healthy for these last few games that Dallas has, to be able to break into a higher seeding, or hopefully not fall out. But end of the stretch, they got the Clippers, the Lakers, the Raptors, and the Grizzlies. I only have down them winning 1 more game this season as well against the Raptors. I mean, the Lakers are going to be too tough of a team to beat. Same with the Clippers, same with the Grizzlies. But definitely I see them only winning against the Raptors um, throughout the rest of the season. Honestly, Kyrie not being there, it's been a huge, while him not being able to play has been a huge impact for him with not being able to get his guaranteed 20 to 30 points a game. It's been a huge impact for him this year. So it'll be interesting to see kind of how things fall with Dallas as well. One thing that you and I as well discussed very, very at length last night was about the Kings and them getting rid of De'Aaron Fox, them trading him away. He's been one of the bigger impacts for Sacramento. One thing that we both believe that Sacramento, that's one of the main reasons why Sacramento's only winning that one game throughout the rest of the year, losing it out to Phoenix. So, I mean, I still ultimately have it where the Kings sneak in and win one more game. That, of course, being against the Suns. I'm not sold on the Suns. Unfortunately, this year for the Suns has been tragic with injuries that led them to the biggest amount of failure. Bradley Beal, is spending significant time on that injury list, as well with Kevin Durant himself. I mean, if they can't have their lead three out there with Booker, Beal, and Kevin Durant all at the same time, there's no way Phoenix is going to be able to become a contender in general.
Yeah, and in reality, when we were talking through so far, what we've talked about so far is really just who we expect to either make or miss the playoffs. We haven't even talked about what happens once they get in.
Exactly.
For either Sacramento or Phoenix, getting in is pretty much going to be it. I don't expect either one of these two teams to unseat the Mavericks in the 9 versus 10. I think it just means they get one more game this season. You're right about Phoenix. The injuries this year to two of the big three, not to mention some of the role players that have missed time. Ryan Dunn is a good example. The injuries and the inability to truly define who their role reserves are going to be, I think has been as much a problem as anything here in Phoenix. I still expect them to sneak in. I do expect them to lose to the Mavericks in that 9 versus 10 play-in game. I don't expect them to do anything else in the playoffs beyond get in. And again, it'll be sad to see what's going to happen in this offseason. They can't seem to unload Bradley Beal. A lot of talk around town right now is he probably just gets waived. And Kevin Durant most likely traded in the offseason. And we'll talk a little bit as we go into the offseason about where he potentially could land. There's a few spots in my mind that playoff results may affect where he ends up going. We'll get to that when we get closer.
Definitely. Now, of course, you Phoenix Suns fans out there who happen to be watching this, don't worry. I know you can't see it because it's hidden behind my Lego Millennium Falcon back there. Until the Suns actually have some depth, we're not getting another one of them pretty little pinnacles right there, to us getting to the finals. Until we can get some actual consistency on the bench, there's no way that the Suns are going to be even coming close to sniffing even significant moves into the playoffs itself. Like, can't even get past that play-in bracket. But that's, again, things to think about in the offseason. Hopeful moves that we can make and make things better. So moving on, let's talk about the teams that got eliminated this year. It kind of shocked us. I wasn't shocked by the Pelicans or Jazz. Jazz are terrible. They've lost so much this season that it just makes you can make your head spin. I mean, 16 wins by a team is nothing. Nothing too happy to have, unless you're at the beginning of the season and your team is 16-1 or something like that. That's when you can be like, yeah, we won. We're a great team. But 16 wins at the end of the stretch is not anything to be happy about. If you're a fan of Utah, Sorry, not sorry. You chose that fandom. It's on you. Good luck. And the Pelicans, I mean, we all know. I mean, with Zion Williamson himself, he's just far too injury prone.
Me, in the West, and I'll pick out two teams that I'm going to highlight. The Phoenix Suns, as we speak, outside looking in. I think this has got to go down as one of the biggest failures in almost any season. To have three stars like this not reach a playoff, if that is what ends up happening, or congratulations, you played your way into the playoffs only to likely get knocked out in the first game. Like, it's almost inexcusable. I think it points to a general dysfunction amongst this team. And just one more example of why these super teams just don't necessarily work in the regular season the way you expect them to.
Definitely.
Sometimes you need a super team in order to make it in the playoffs. But I think we're seeing a lot more diversity around the league in terms of that. When you look at your Clevelands, you look at Oklahoma City, you look at Detroit even right now with the leap they've made from worst to making it to the playoffs this year. The teams that tend to succeed throughout the regular season and making the moves to get into the playoffs have a lot more balance. Come playoff time, sometimes the superstars are able to take over. But for me, Phoenix in the West is probably the biggest disappointment, probably in the NBA.
Without a doubt.
The other one that stands out, the other one that stands out in the West for me, San Antonio, and very unfortunate injury to Wemby. I truly hope he's able to come back from that. This guy is a generational talent, and I cannot wait to see what he's got in store for next year. I think had he not gotten hurt, the Suns would be so far out of it, we wouldn't be talking about them. And the Sacramento Kings, who in training De'Aaron Fox truly started to go toward a rebuild, would probably be on the outside looking in as well. So those two teams in the West for me are the two biggest surprises.
Without a doubt. All right. So
Over
moving
in
on
the
over to the
East,
East. As we all know, pretty much playoffs already solidified over in the East, except for moving within like the within the top within that top 10. Raptors, Brooklyn, 76ers, and the Hornets and the Wizards all being knocked out. One of the bigger surprises for me is definitely the 76ers and the Raptors.
one moment.
So while he's dealing with her, with the 76ers, one thing that I know for a fact has been a huge failure for them is injuries and inconsistent play. With Embiid and Paul George both being ruled out for the season, definitely has hindered this team from making a run in the playoffs. A run at the playoffs more than anything. If Embiid and George both had been healthy throughout the stretch near the end, 76ers may have been able to make a name to even make it to that 10 seed at very worst.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more with the 76ers being the big shock. Now, we knew coming into the season that Embiid had some injury issues. What we didn't count on is just how severe those issues were. This is common among big men in the NBA that, you know, even if you're a generational guy like Embiid is, you're not usually destined to play more than 10 years without some type of injury slowing you down. It's almost heartbreaking to watch because I love Joel Embiid as a competitor. I think he wears his heart on his sleeve, and I love that about him. He wants to win so badly. I thought that bringing Paul George over there was a gamble at best. George has had injury problems the last several seasons, but you had to give him something if you were going to help Embiid, give yourself a chance to win a title. So to see them fall as hard and as fast as they have, it's almost inexplicable. but it's another sign of what injuries can do to you in the NBA. The other teams that missed out in the East, not a lot of surprises here. Washington, we knew they were in a rebuild when they gave up Bradley Beal. Charlotte, they seem to be perpetually in a rebuild. Brooklyn, they're kind of right on schedule with where they should be in terms of record and in terms of competitiveness on the floor right now. They're going through the process of the rebuild. They started that when they gave Kevin Durant to the Suns. And then Toronto, um, just a lack of overall talent on that team. For them to still have 28 wins is a little surprising to me. I didn't expect them to finish above the 20-win mark this year. And if not for some of the injuries that have happened to the other teams in the East, I don't think they would have. These teams that are destined now for the lottery, all of them are praying to get that number 1 overall pick and Cooper Flagg. He is going to be a talent that can turn a franchise around very quickly. Look for Brooklyn to win the little ping pong ball battle and somehow get lucky and land Cooper Flagg.
Yeah, definitely. And I agree with him. With a lot of these teams, when it comes to the draft, they're hoping and praying they get that number 1 overall pick. Can I just say, with the way that the NBA does it comparatively to the NFL, I love the lottery system when it comes to the number 1 overall pick. Because if you also think about it, with the NFL, the rule always has been worst team gets the number 1 overall pick. That's why you saw Cleveland getting so many first overall picks year after year after year. Maybe doing a lottery system for the NFL might be interesting to see. Hopefully, something they may consider, but it makes it. I mean, it makes it to where you losing out and having the worst record just isn't what gets you that number 1 overall pick. But anyway, transitioning back to the NBA, with the Raptors, I definitely know number one thing with them was a fairly inconsistent bench. Sad to see, of course, as a Suns fan, as a fan of DeAndre Ayton himself, him go. He's with the Raptors now, right?
No.
I'm way off, aren't I? Trailblazers, right?
There you go.
Okay, my apologies. So with the Raptors, definitely sad to see the inconsistent bench. But yeah, I mean, more than anything, with them not having that star talent out there with the Raptors, I mean, it was bound to happen, honestly.
Yeah, and that's kind of the deal in the NBA. If you're not winning a championship, and Charles Barkley said it years ago about the Pacers on camera when they asked him what they thought they should do to try and compete, and he said trade them all away, trade everyone, because if you're not winning an NBA championship, your goal should be to reload. And we've seen that kind of be the process now in the NBA for several years. If you're not in the mix to win a championship, teams are unloading their superstars, loading up on draft capital, and that's the way that in the NBA you end up winning. It isn't about going out and spending all the big free agent money every time. More often than not, building through the draft is what gives you a sustainable advantage, something that isn't just a flash in the pan, a one-shot chance at a championship. Oklahoma City and Cleveland, the top 2 teams in the NBA, both just went through that themselves, and we're seeing the results. So look for the teams that are loading up now, 2 to 3 years from now. Look for them to be in that mix and in those talks about teams that rebuilt and suddenly are competing for championships.
Definitely. Now, moving on from the sad part of the surprises this season, let's get into the happier stories. Houston was the biggest surprise for me this year. Happy to see their young stars are finally blossoming, finally becoming a very consistent team, and turning the Rockets into contenders this year.
Yeah, it is fun to watch when you watch a young squad come together. I don't think they were my biggest surprise. I don't think they were a huge surprise at all beyond being the number 2 overall. Like I expected them to fall somewhere in the 4 to 6 range. For me, the biggest surprise in the NBA this year has to be the Detroit Pistons. To go from worst in the NBA to being solidly in the playoffs in the East speaks volumes about the mental turnaround this team has had since letting Monty Williams walk. Um, I, I don't know how you can have a bigger surprise than that to go from worst to in the playoffs. In the NFL, it's a little more common because of the way the schedules play out. But in the NBA, to make that big a leap in year one, they will not win much in the playoffs this year, but look for this experience to play a big part in their success over the next 2 to 3 years.
Definitely. So only other teams I kind of was surprised by. I mean, the Cavs. I mean, they're young stars and their veteran stars are finally gelling together, playing a lot more consistently now, and making them. I mean, I mean, making them into a star team that very well could win it all this year. I mean, this is third best season for Garland for Garland's career, and arguably Mitchell's best season so far this year, or so far for his career.
And I agree. The talent that Cleveland has between and again in the East, there's 2 teams that are clearly, in my mind, head and shoulders above the rest. It's Cleveland, it's Boston. I have this being a very interesting series at the end of the year for the Eastern Conference Championship. Um, it's just another sign that building your team correctly and not throwing a bunch of money at 1 or 2 players, building your team with some depth is what gets you to 55, 60, 65 wins in a season. Um, I really like what Cleveland's done. They are definitely one of the bigger surprises this year, too. I didn't expect them to finish first and be the second best team in the NBA right now. I would have been comfortable guessing 52, 53 wins, but definitely not 62 to date and 65 by the end of the year. So kudos to them. Hats off to them. They've been a big surprise. It's really hard to call anyone a surprise in the West because the teams that are always good are always good. Oklahoma City being 64-13 overall. I don't think anyone saw those win totals coming. I think we all saw the talent. 50 wins was definitely not out of the question for them. 65 probably was. So, outside of the Detroit Pistons, the 2 teams at the top of the standings are definitely bigger surprises for me as well. Um, I would say that those are the 3 teams that really stand out for me.
Definitely. And the only other one that I thought was a somewhat huge surprise, well, not even a huge surprise, uh, the Knicks, I mean, having the season they've had so far, the addition of Karl Anthony Towns from his departure from Minnesota, his, I mean, Karl Anthony Towns definitely has been solely missed on the Timberwolves, but the move that he made over to the Knicks to be on that star-studded team uh, could make they very well could make that argument that they could make a run towards the finals with Karl Anthony Towns as well, arguably.
Yeah, and I think they're probably a year away from being in that conversation. I do think they win their first round matchup going away. I think they'll win probably in 5. Um, but the second round matchup, getting paired against the Boston Celtics, who, in my opinion, are probably the third best team in the NBA right now, um, getting paired against them is a death sentence. Boston, I think, is going to take Cleveland to 7 games. Um, I really like what they're building in New York, and who can't love Mikal Bridges, right? I really love what they're building there. I'm interested to see what they do this coming off season to try and build on their success so far. It's always fun when you see the Knicks, the Celtics, the Lakers all be good at the same time. To have teams on both coasts playing near the top of the league, it's always good for the NBA in the end. So,
Definitely.
yeah, I don't know that their totals are a shock to me when they brought over Karl Anthony Towns. I expected him to be in the mix at the end. If anything, I would have expected maybe a couple more wins at this point than where they're at right now. Not by much, but I do agree. New York has made strides and will continue to make strides as we go forward.
All right. Let's get into the even more fun things. What's going to happen with the play-in and what our predictions are for the playoff matchups. So start with the play-in tournaments. You want see? Do we start in the East or the West?
Well, we started in the East. We can do either one. I think it's more fun to talk about the West just because that's where the actual talent in basketball lies. Nothing against the East Coast, but y'all, and can we do something to change this up, please? I'll get to a proposal that my buddy and I talked about last night, and I'll throw it out there for everyone to listen to and comment on. But let's talk about the here and now. The here and now in the West, I had Memphis as my 7. I had the Clippers as my 8. I have Memphis winning the one game play-in between 7 and 8. They lock down the 7 seed, and that leaves the Clippers to play the winner of the Mavericks and either the Kings or the Suns. I've got the Mavericks winning that game, and that'll bring us to the Mavericks and the Clippers for that last spot in the Western Conference playoffs. Look for Dallas to surprise the Clippers. Look for Anthony Davis to have a monster game, and Dallas sneaks in as the number 8 seed in the Western Conference. That's my take.
Now, my take definitely is a little bit different. I mean, just looking over the teams and the injury concerns and everything, the things that I found with the Western Conference play-in tournaments. Of course, we have different differences in the number 10. With me, I have the Clippers at 7, Grizzlies at 8, Kings at 10, Mavs at 9. When it comes to the Clippers Grizzlies, I give the Clippers the edge over the Grizzlies in that 78. With the Clippers sneaking into the well, not sneaking in, but getting into that playoff at the number 7 seed. And then as far as the Kings Mavs, I have the Kings beating out the Mavs. Of course, relative Kings or Suns could be there, but again, I give the edge to the Kings over the Suns, but Kings over the Mavs at the 10-9 game. And then the Grizzlies still coming out and defeating the Kings to lock up the 8th seed for the West. So moving towards the East. I know, of course, we've been sitting here talking about differences on where teams will go, whole 9 yards. So over in the East, I have Mavs at 7, Hawks at 8, and Bulls at 9, Heat at 10. So right where things are right now. I have the Magic beating out the Hawks to get it to lock up that number 7. Bulls beating out the Heat for the Bulls to move on. Bulls taking on the Hawks in that final play-in game, with the Bulls beating out the Hawks to lock up that 8th seed.
Gotcha. Well, I had Atlanta as my 7 seed, as the 7 seed, and Orlando as the 8. I have Atlanta hanging on and beating Orlando. You talked a little bit about the injuries going on down in Orlando. I think that's the deciding factor in that game. I had Miami knocking off Chicago in the 9 versus 10 game. That sets up a matchup between Orlando and Miami. And this is a coin flip for me. Either one of these two teams could come out of it. Look for Orlando to find a way to play their way in, to get their young squad a little bit of experience in the playoffs. And they will then be facing the Cleveland Cavaliers in the first round.
All right. So that's kind of how we both view it here. Either way, getting into those main playoff matchups. We'll start in the East, switch over to the West after the fact. So in the East, we both have a fairly similar agreement when it comes to that 1 versus 8. 1 versus 8. Of course, differences between us two are just the teams on who will be there. Mavs versus the Bulls in my, Cavs versus the Bulls in my prediction here. Still, either way, Cavs beating the Bulls in that series 4-2. And
And
then
I've got Cleveland in a sweep. I think Cleveland is so far talent-wise ahead of any of the teams that are going to make it out of the play-in. I just don't see them having to expend more than 4 games to take care of business.
And then after that, I have Celtics Magic because, the first play-in game. Celtics beating the Magic in that series 4-1.
That's what I had as well. I feel like you're going to see Boston give one away, but they're not going to lose this series. They're gonna either sweep or win in 5.
I
Yes,
think
it is.
she's ready for the show to be over. She wants all your attention. All right. So,
Well, that's 6 weeks for you.
yeah. All right. So,
You're going to give it to them.
Knicks Pistons. Knicks at the 3, Pistons at the 6 for me. I have the Knicks winning out that series 4-1.
Yep, and I've got the Knicks as well. And for me, it's gonna be Detroit that they're paired against. I think the relative inexperience in Detroit is going to cost them. If you want a donut, you'll let me finish. Okay, then no donut. That's what I thought. No, I like the amount of playoff experience that the New York team has got, even if it's one moment.
So while he's dealing with her, I think I kind of know what he was getting down to with the Pistons. I mean, they're a younger team. Unfortunately, don't have a lot of experience when it comes to the actual playoffs. So it's kind of why we kind of boil it down to the Pistons. Unfortunately, losing out their series 4-1 against the Knicks. As far as how he has it down, as far as what the records are between the two, I'm not entirely sure. So while we're waiting on him, I'll go ahead and lay down my predictions for the 4 and 5. Pacers Bucks. Pacers at 4, Bucks at 5. And I have down the Pacers winning that series against the Bucks 4-2.
Thanks for hanging in there. We'll get this wrapped up as quick as I can. Like I said, the depth in New York. That's the biggest reason I see New York sweeping Detroit. Assuming it's Detroit at the 6th seed, like I think it will be. And then you mentioned Indiana, Milwaukee. This for me is probably the most entertaining first round matchup. A lot of times the 4 and 5 are. I think at the end of the day, it's going to come down to the playoff experience that this Bucks team has. I really think the Bucks will take the series against Indiana. I have it in 7, going the distance. But I do have Milwaukee prevailing and going on to face Cleveland in the second round.
Okay. So that's kind of how we have boiling it down there. Moving on to that next matchup, I would have it Cavs Pacers as far as that game after the fact. You'd have it as the Cavs Bucks. Either way, still I have it down with that series. The Cavs winning it out 4-1.
And I had Cavs in 6. So, and here's probably one of the most important things when it comes to playoffs. It's about taking care of business as quickly as you can and keeping your guys fresh and keeping them healthy. If Cleveland can get through that series in 5, big boost for them. I really think it's going to be Cleveland in 6 again, just because of the playoff experience and the depth in Milwaukee that they have. And this guy named Giannis, who seems to always bring his best in the playoffs. Either way, I've got Cleveland winning in that series and going on to the Eastern Conference Finals.
Gotcha. So after that, we have your Celtics Knicks for me. Celtics, I mean, the Knicks not having the playoff experience with that younger team. I ultimately have it down where the Celtics want it beating out the Knicks. It's not going to be a quick matchup there. Not going to be 4-1. Not going to be 4-0. I have it down 4-3. Coming down in the seventh game, Celtics, up. Celtics ultimately up, tied 3-3 with the Knicks. Celtics winning out that final game.
And I've got the same thing. First of all, the NBA would be absolutely thrilled if this is their second round star matchup. Um, the storylines between Boston and New York, it's not just in baseball, folks. It really isn't. This, for those of you who are the younger audience and don't remember, the New York Knicks Boston Celtics series back in the 70s, the 80s, even into the 90s. These series transcended sports. It didn't matter if you were a fan of these teams or not. This was TV, and the ratings that I think this series will get are going to be remarkable. Much like Raven, I've got this Celtics in 7 to set up the Celtics and Cavaliers in the Eastern Conference Finals. I just think that Boston, with their talent and their depth and their roster and the ability of everybody on that team to score, I think that's what ends up helping them to prevail. I think New York comes out tight in Game 7 of the Western of that second round matchup. I think that's going to be the deciding factor.
Definitely.
Great for the NBA because they need some Eastern Conference excitement to deal with the fact that everyone knows the talents in the West. I think this will be good basketball.
Definitely. So that brings us down to the Eastern Conference Final, which we both have down as Cavs Celtics. Now, I have it down with the Cavs ultimately winning out the series at 4-2.
Yep, and I do as well. And it's really tough to bet against the Celtics. Let me make that clear. Like, the Celtics are, again, one of the most complete teams out there. And the inexperience of the Cavaliers in the playoffs compared to the Celtics, it's really hard to say the Celtics somehow don't win this series. But I think watching this team as much as I have this year, that the Cavaliers, their trade at the deadline to bring in their 3-and-D, their 3-and-D stopper, paired with Mitchell, and paired with the fact that these guys seem to be able to play defense better than anybody in the NBA, defense wins championships. And I think at the end of the day, that's going to be the difference. I think the defense in the playoffs for the Cavaliers is just going to step up one more level. And I've got them winning in 6 over the Boston Celtics.
All right. So that brings us over to the Western Conference to figure out the Western Conference.
Yep.
The Western Conference champion. So starting out the Western Conference, OKC versus Memphis for me, the 1 and the 8. OKC taking that game 4-1. I see Memphis at least still in one game, but other than that, nothing more.
And if they don't, Ja Morant might go on a shooting spree. So let's just hope that they at least get one. No, Oklahoma City, I agree. The relative inexperience, I do see them losing one game in this first round, and I think that'll actually be very good for them to have that experience in the first round of the playoff.
Sorry, it was kind of breaking up a little bit.
Oh, yeah, no, I think that'll be a very good thing for Oklahoma City. I do have them winning out or winning the series in 5. Look for Oklahoma City to advance to the second round.
All right. Then we have the Rockets Clippers. For me, the 2 and the 7. Rockets, I have winning out that series 4-2 against the Clippers.
Yeah, and Rockets, I think same thing there. Young squad, young players outside of James Harden. I see them in their relative inexperience giving a game or two away, for lack of a better way of putting it. Shooting goes cold every now and then when you got young shooters in the playoffs. But I do see them ultimately being the better team. I do see them ultimately prevailing 4-2 over whoever the 7 seed is. At this point, it really doesn't matter. because those top 6 seeds in the West are all that really matters.
Exactly. So moving on to the top 6, number 3, the number 3 here. Now we did talk a little bit, of course, with changing and everything, with the Timberwolves making it out to the 3, and it was the Nuggets that,
Golden State being the 3, at least for me. Golden State and Denver, I had tied with 50 wins, and Golden State with that tiebreaker. So in my bracket, I've got Golden State, and they would be taking on Minnesota. I've got Golden State winning this in 5. Jimmy Butler was an amazing addition to this Golden State team at just the right time. Phoenix, keep crying. Bradley Beal, thanks a lot. You couldn't just go hang out in Miami, hang out on the beach with your broken back. No, honestly, Golden State is probably the scariest team for me in the playoffs right now. My buddy says it's Denver, but in Jokic right now, the way he's playing, I get it. But Golden State is the hottest team in the NBA, and it's not even close. Since bringing on Butler, they've lost 5 or 6 games total. So watch out for them. I do have them winning over Minnesota. I have them winning in 5, and advancing to the second round.
exactly. So from there, let's see. Hold on, I'm lost myself a little bit here. I'm sorry. Let's see. Lost my train of thought. Sorry about that. So we got 4 and 5, 4 and 5 coming down to the Nuggets and Lakers, correct?
You nailed it.
All right. So Nuggets number 4, Lakers number 5. With the inconsistent play of the Lakers, I honestly see it being the Nuggets winning out that series 4-3.
So for me, I learned 2 years ago, 3 years ago, I can't even remember anymore. It hurts so much. I learned you just don't bet against Luka in the playoffs. You just don't. That man is a scary, scary man when the playoffs begin. And the way that the Lakers have gelled since adding him, and the fact that LeBron is healthy, and the fact that the rest of their squad is not a bad team. They really aren't. It was the most shocking trade I've seen in a really long time to see them ship Anthony Davis off. But going back to Charles Barkley's point, if you're not in it to win it, get rid of them all. This move that the Lakers made to bring Doncic over, Donkey Boy, yeah, you heard me, to bring Doncic in was exactly for this moment. I have the Lakers getting through the Nuggets 4-3 and going on to the second round.
Okay. All right, so that brings us down to the second round. I would have it Thunder Nuggets. You'd have it Thunder Lakers. I have it down with the Thunders wound up winning out the series against the Nuggets 4-2.
And I have it 4-3, Oklahoma City as well. Again, really, really difficult to put money against Luka in the playoffs. But SGA, for me, is one of the most complete players in the NBA. He does it on a nightly basis. He can put 50 up any given night. It's unbelievable for me, the way that the guy can do this. Chet Holmgren being back, he's a great defensive stopper right there in the middle. Look for LeBron to tweak something, and that to be the excuse. I just think Oklahoma City is the best team in the NBA. So to have them losing in the second round just doesn't make sense.
Yeah, almost like he tweak his knee trying to chase down. LeBron will probably tweak his knee trying to chase down. Oh God, what's his name? Stephen A. Smith.
Yeah, pretty much.
Talk about my son. Come on now.
Pretty
Man,
much.
biggest head case with LeBron. Anywho, so brings us to the Rockets. Rockets Warriors. I have it down here. Rockets taking down Warriors as well in a 4-2 win.
So I initially was ready to declare the Rockets the likely winners. The win last night against Oklahoma City solidifies they are a good team and not a team that's just going to get run over. Steph Curry somehow raises his game even one more notch in the playoffs. Jimmy Butler, playoff predator. The guy just he's a beast. I slept on it. I'm going to take Golden State in 7 over Houston.
Golden State, come on now. All right, so then that definitely makes our predictions a lot different for between you and I, because I have it down Thunder Rockets in that Western Conference Finals. I ultimately have the Rockets beating out to Thunder like they did last night in a 4-3 series, and Rockets moving on to the finals to face off the Cavs.
And for me, that leaves Oklahoma City, Golden State Warriors. I'm gonna go with what I said a moment ago. Oklahoma City, most complete team, best team in the NBA for me. It doesn't make sense when you feel that strongly to go against them. I'm going to take Oklahoma City in 7 over the Golden State Warriors.
All right. So that brings us down to the fun part. Finals. We have two completely different matchups, two different viewpoints when it comes down. I have the Rockets versus the Cavs. You have the Thunder versus the Cavs. The two 1 seeds taking on each other. I have the two seed and the 1 seed taking on each other. Rockets making it to the finals versus the Cavs. I ultimately have it where in a 7-game series against the Cavs, the Rockets wound up taking down the Cavaliers to win their first championship in a long time.
I mean, if you're going to swing for the fences, right? Swing big. I've got the 2 1 seeds, the two teams that, in my opinion, throughout the course of the year have been the best teams in their respective conferences. I know it's not sexy to pick 1 versus 1. I know it's not exciting to say no big upset to knock a 1 seed out. I firmly believe that getting to see the 2 best teams in the NBA in each conference face off is great for basketball. The NBA would probably cry over this being their finals matchup. I think they'd much rather see Boston and the Lakers. But with the matchup that I've predicted, I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to stick with what I've said. I'm taking Oklahoma City in 6 against the Cleveland Cavaliers.
All right. So that brings us here to the end. Now, far too much to think about, of course, when it comes to next year for each team. But that brings us down to that fun. Brings us down to everything we've talked about. We've talked about the finals, talked about the matchups and everything. So that brings me down to everything that I had to discuss about the NBA.
Yep, and I'll table my proposal for the play-in tournament until next time. We'll maybe talk a little bit about that. The play-in tournament is a really great concept that has created a little more interest in the NBA in the playoffs. It's given 2 more teams a shot at sneaking into the playoffs. It's never a bad thing, but I'd love to find a way to get the 16 best teams the most likely shot at being in the playoffs, regardless of conference. So I'll bring that proposal to the table next time, and we'll see what everybody thinks.
All right. So most likely we talk about the NBA next week, especially with the final games ultimately happening next week, next Sunday. Yeah, I mean, I'll be happily, keeping everybody up to date when it comes to the game with the Sun, Sacramento. So brings us to the end.
We're going to dip
everybody.
out on our end.
All right.
You all have a wonderful day, and we'll see you next time.
All right. So, like mentioned, that brings us to the end. I appreciate everybody who came out, watched, and supported. This was a fun one. I mean, we don't normally talk about basketball. We normally are focusing on football and baseball. But I appreciate everybody who came out and shared the love. Any thoughts or any personal feelings as far as the NBA when it comes to those final matchups? Definitely leave a comment. Let us know what your personal viewpoints are as well, and we would love to hear them. I'm going to finish things off. We will be back next week. Next either Saturday or Sunday, talking about the final matchups that are happening over the next week. So, without further ado, I want to thank every single person here for showing up, showing the love. It's huge. It's huge having people here available to speak on things and having the support that I do here. For those of you who are seeing this on YouTube, don't forget, leave a like, subscribe, and again, leave comments and let us know what we can do to change things around for next time. But yeah, that brings us to the end. Dude.